Paragon Entertainment Corporation emerged from a Canadian dream. It was a dream to make movies, big movies, movies that would put Canada on the global entertainment map. The year was 1977. The visionary was Jon Slan. Slan was a lawyer, but his heart was in filmmaking. He saw an opportunity. Canada had talent. Canada had stories. What Canada needed was a company to bring them to the world. Slan decided he would build that company. He named it Paragon Motion Pictures. The name itself spoke of excellence. It was a bold statement in a challenging industry, a promise of quality. The late 1970s were an interesting time for film. Hollywood was churning out blockbusters. Independent cinema was finding its voice. Canada was trying to carve its niche. Tax incentives were starting to make production more attractive north of the border. Slan understood this landscape well. He knew that to compete, he needed more than just good ideas. He needed business savvy. He needed connections. He started small. He focused on feature films initially. The goal was clear produce content that could travel, that could find an audience beyond Canadian borders. This international outlook was crucial from day one. Jon Slan was not just a dreamer, he was a pragmatist. He understood the financial realities of the film industry. He knew that raising capital was key. He knew that distribution was king. His legal background likely helped him navigate the complex contracts and deals. Paragon Motion Pictures began its journey cautiously. They tested the waters, they learned the ropes. Early projects were modest, but each one was a stepping stone. Each one taught valuable lessons. The company was slowly building its reputation. It was a period of foundational work, laying the groundwork for future growth and the bigger ambitions that Slan held for his creation. The initial focus on motion pictures was ambitious. The film business is notoriously risky. It requires significant upfront investment. Returns are uncertain. Slan and his team worked tirelessly. They sought out scripts, they courted talent, they looked for co-production partners. The Canadian film scene was relatively small then. Paragon was one of the pioneering companies trying to build a sustainable industry. Their early efforts were part of a larger movement, a movement to prove that Canada could produce world-class entertainment. The first few years were about survival. They were about proving the concept. They were about showing that Paragon was here to stay and make its mark. The early 1980s brought a shift. The film landscape was evolving. Television was becoming a powerful medium for original content. Paragon Motion Pictures saw this change. Jon Slan recognized the potential. Television offered more consistent production opportunities. It offered a different financial model. It was a way to build a more stable business. So the company began to pivot. It started exploring television production. This was a smart move. It diversified their portfolio. It opened up new revenue streams. The transition wasn't immediate, but the intent was clear. Paragon was ready to embrace the small screen alongside its cinematic ambitions. In 1982, this strategic shift was formalized. Paragon Motion Pictures became Paragon Entertainment Corporation. This name change reflected the broader scope of its operations. It wasn't just about movies anymore, it was about entertainment in all its forms. Television series, miniseries, and made-for-TV movies became a significant part of their output. This transition allowed Paragon to work more consistently. It allowed them to build relationships with broadcasters, both in Canada and internationally. The company started to gain momentum. It was producing content that people were watching. It was a period of adaptation and growth for the young Canadian entity. Key projects during this era helped solidify Paragon's reputation. They started producing children's programming. They ventured into drama series. Each successful show built confidence. It attracted more talent. It opened more doors. The company was learning how to navigate the television industry. They were mastering the art of the pitch. They were understanding network needs. They were becoming adept at international co-productions, a vital skill for a Canadian company looking to compete globally. The move into television was proving to be a very wise decision, providing a steadier flow of work and income than relying solely on the unpredictable feature film market. The early foray into television was critical for Paragon's survival and eventual expansion. It provided a base, it provided cash flow, It allowed them to take more risks in other areas. The Canadian television landscape was also supportive to an extent. There were mandates for Canadian content. Paragon was well positioned to help fill that need. They produced shows that resonated with Canadian audiences, but they also aimed for broader appeal. This dual focus was important. It helped them grow their business. It helped them become a significant player in the Canadian entertainment scene, demonstrating foresight in adapting to changing media trends early on. The late 1980s and early 1990s marked a period of significant ascent for Paragon Entertainment. The company was firing on all cylinders. They had successful television shows. They were still involved in feature films. They began to expand their operations aggressively. One key area of expansion was animation. Paragon recognized the global appeal of animated content. They invested in animation studios. They produced popular animated series. This diversification was a smart strategic move. It tapped into a lucrative market. It further broadened Paragon's reach and its portfolio of intellectual property, making it more versatile. Paragon also became very active in acquisitions. They bought other production companies. They acquired extensive libraries of content. This strategy helped them grow quickly. It gave them access to more projects. It increased their market share. Notable productions during this era included popular series like Lamb Chop's Play Along and Krat's Creatures. These shows were successful both in Canada and internationally. They showcased Paragon's ability to produce high-quality, commercially viable content across different genres. The company was building an impressive catalog and a strong reputation as a reliable producer of entertaining programming for diverse audiences. The impact of Paragon on Canadian and international film and television was undeniable during these peak years. They were a major employer of Canadian talent. Writers, directors, actors, and crew found work on Paragon projects. They helped to professionalize the Canadian industry. They showed that Canadian companies could compete on the world stage. Their co-productions brought international partners and money into Canada. This was a boom time for the company. Jon Slan's vision was being realized. Paragon was a Canadian success story, a beacon for others in the industry, proving that a homegrown company could achieve international scale and recognition. Driven by this success, Paragon Entertainment Corporation decided to go public. This was a major step. It provided access to capital for further expansion. It raised the company's profile. Trading on the Toronto Stock Exchange, Paragon was now a publicly accountable entity. This brought new pressures. It brought new expectations. The company continued to pursue ambitious projects. They looked for bigger hits. They expanded their international sales efforts. The move to public trading was a sign of their ambition. It was a declaration that Paragon was ready to play in the big leagues, fueling further growth and larger-scale productions. Despite its many successes, Paragon Entertainment began to face significant financial challenges in the mid-1990s. The entertainment industry is inherently volatile. Hits are hard to predict. Production costs can escalate. Paragon, in its quest for growth, had perhaps overextended itself. They had high overhead costs. They were involved in many ambitious projects simultaneously. Some of these projects did not perform as well as expected. The debt load started to become a concern. The pressures of being a publicly traded company also meant constant scrutiny of financial performance quarter by quarter, which added another layer of stress. Several factors contributed to Paragon's decline. The market for television programming was becoming more competitive. Broadcasters were becoming more demanding. The economics of the industry were shifting. Paragon also faced challenges with some of its international ventures. The cost of producing high-quality content that could compete globally was immense. Cash flow became a serious issue. The company struggled to manage its debt. Attempts to restructure and find new financing proved difficult. The magic of the earlier years seemed to be fading, replaced by mounting financial worries and operational difficulties that began to overshadow their creative output. By 1998, the situation had become untenable. Paragon Entertainment Corporation, once a shining star of the Canadian entertainment industry, was forced to file for bankruptcy. It was a sad end to a company that had achieved so much. The assets of the company were eventually sold off. The extensive library of films and television shows found new owners. For Jon Slan, it must have been a bitter outcome. His vision had fueled the company for over 2 decades. The bankruptcy marked the end of an era for Canadian television and film production, a stark reminder of the precarious nature of the entertainment business, even for established players. Yet the legacy of Paragon Entertainment Corporation endures. The company played a crucial role in developing the Canadian film and television industry. It launched the careers of many talented individuals. It produced a vast catalog of content, much of which is still enjoyed today. Paragon demonstrated that Canadian companies could produce programming with international appeal. While the company itself ultimately failed, its impact was significant. It paved the way for future generations of Canadian producers and creators. The rise and fall of Paragon serves as a compelling cautionary tale in the annals of Canadian entertainment history, highlighting both the potential for great success and the ever-present risks.